and welcome back to The Give and Go. I'm your coach, Reynoso, here with my boy,
Soltero. What's up, guys?
The 18th edition of the Gold Cup has arrived, my friend. The CONCACAF Gold Cup is here. We're going to preview and predict it alongside you folks. An exciting announcement. The Give and Go is going on tour, folks. We're going on tour. We're going to be at all of the following Gold Cup matches, starting with Mexico versus Dominican Republic at SoFi Stadium. That's going to be fire, bro. USA versus Trinidad and Tobago at PayPal Park in San Jose. We're doing Saudi Arabia versus USA at Q2 Stadium here in Austin, Texas. And then a doubleheader over in Houston at the Shell Energy. Curacao, Canada.
Ooh.
And then Honduras versus El Salvador. Bro, these are going to be good matches. Lastly, finishing off with USA versus Haiti at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. We're going to be doing fan interviews before and after the game, so look out for my curly head and Soltero out there. We would be so happy to interview any of you guys after these matches. Get that excitement, that passion on the sidelines. We're also going to be going to Club World Cup games as well, so it's going to be a busy time for the Give and Go, but an exciting time, and hopefully we'll see a lot of you guys at these matches. And now a few introductory facts about the Gold Cup as we are in its 18th edition. The final will be at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. And funny enough, with the Club World Cup happening at the same time, I came to learn that most of the matches that are going to be played are going to be in the western side of the USA, whereas the Club World Cup matches are going to be on the eastern side. I was not aware of that happening, but I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Lastly, 4 groups with 4 teams, each top 2 teams advancing to the quarterfinal stage, and this is just knockouts all the way into the final match. No third, fourth place game, just a straight final to decide who's the best team in CONCACAF. Let's talk Gold Cup, brother.
Please, bro. I'm actually really excited for this edition. A year out from the World Cup, which will be here in the United States, as well as Canada and Mexico. We got some big narratives going on this tournament. Some positive, maybe some negative regarding maybe a certain host country, but we're going to get there. I want to start. Can we start in Group A, please? Let's start in Group A.
Let's work our way there, bro. Let's work our way there.
With some positive news.
Let's start with some positive news with a fun group in Group A, where we have a fun matchup here. We have some full circle moments with Costa Rica and a certain manager that is guiding them. Dominican Republic team, who is, I believe, at their first ever Gold Cup. My beautiful Mexican side, and then a potential dark horse, a potential surprise team in Suriname making up this group. Let's start with Mexico, though, man.
Please.
Let's start with Mexico, who right now finds themselves in one of the best periods of form, I would argue, in the last 4, 5, or even 6 years, with how brutal those times were, losing to the USA multiple times, losing out in Nations Leagues, and not competing at a very high level that we're used to. Finally, Mexico is starting to pick up the pace, having defeated the USA in a friendly back in October, then following that up with a Nations League victory. Raul Jimenez going off in that tournament. Things are looking much more better, much more optimistic for this Mexican side, in my opinion, as they also call up a roster that I think is probably their strongest in a really long time, bro.
I can't believe we're here when it comes to the Mexican national team. And specifically, I do think this is the best team since 2018. A year ago, this team crashed out of the Copa America in the group stage phase. It was a disaster. Jimmy Lozano's job got on the line. Damn, he got fired.
I haven't heard that name in a long time,
dude,
bro.
Right? It feels like it was so long ago. And before that Copa America, it was the 2 darkest years of Mexican international football that I had ever witnessed. It looked like we were going to crash out bottom of the group in 2026. That's the trajectory that team was on. And then Aguirre comes to the frame, and he completely changes it, almost seemingly overnight. And I think that's the first thing we have to talk about is Aguirre's impact with this Mexican squad, because I do think all of this is because of him, all of this success. And it's simple, actually. He's just helped this new generation of Mexican footballers realize their true identity. It's not a creative, fluid, midfield type of identity. It's a defensive one. It's a physical one. It's a gritty one. Add in the X factor of Raul Jimenez, and you get the best team in CONCACAF right now, Mexico.
It's been a near perfect start for Aguirre so far, and I say that with full certainty coming off of a 4-2 loss against Switzerland, because here's one thing, brother. I do not care about friendlies. All right, I want to make that very clear. I do not care about friendlies and the build-up to these matches, all right? I want competitive matches, and the Swiss, They got us yesterday.
They
But still, it's been near perfect for Javier Aguirre because of what you just mentioned, identity. And not just that, but I do think he's been really good about his selections, the players that he's calling up. It's what excites me so much. I want to go quickly through the roster. And what stood out to me as I saw what players got called up for this tournament, Malagon's going to be in goal. Rahel had a bad game yesterday. Yeah. I think he's done there. Malagon will be our go-to starter.
Real interesting, though, because Ochoa got called up as well. And I want to know your opinion. I want to know the people's opinion down in the comments as well. Why is Ochoa here at 39 years of age unless he's going to play? Right? Let's be real here. Why is Ochoa on the bench? Or should he be starting? Malagon has done well in these recent call-ups. He seems to be the next best Mexican goalkeeper. But if Ochoa is getting called up, then wouldn't you expect him to play? I'm really curious to see what people think about that.
No, I think he's going to embrace being the best backup in international football. That's what he's here for, bro.
But
this is the best backup.
Is that what he's here for?
Yeah.
If
it's sure? Not that, it's to play the Rafa Marquez role that Marquez is playing right now, which is to, advise the team. Provide that veteran leadership.
Be another goalkeeping coach.
Basically retired at this point. I mean, Ochoa is getting really old now. But I know you can put important minutes for us. If Malagon gets injured and we put Angel in, I would be surprised. I'll tell you that. I would be shocked if Angel gets the start over Ochoa in those moments.
Would you be surprised if Ochoa starts? Would that surprise you?
I would.
Really?
I would be surprised.
There's just something about Ochoa, the name, what he's done specifically in the Mexican jersey, that just makes me think, like...
Tournament Ochoa.
Yeah. Aguirre himself has had history with his Mexican national team. Rafa Marquez came into 2014 and he provided that veteran experience, not on the sideline, but on the pitch. I just wonder if both Rafa Marquez and Aguirre in their coaching positions are trying to do something similar. Bring in Ochoa last minute and be like, all right, we need tournament Ochoa one last time, one last go. Or is it really just as an advisor on the sideline? I'm so curious because if he does end up starting, I just won't be surprised because of that.
I'll give you $20 if Ochoa starts. I wasn't even considering that, bro.
Then why is he here?
I think it's been so clear.
I just don't like that he's here.
And the last year, it's been so clear that Malagon is going to be our new go-to starter. Has Ochoa even started under Aguirre this entire tenure?
See, that's the thing.
I don't think he has.
But he hasn't also really gotten called up.
No.
So that's why I'm just like, why is he here? He could be in the stands. I'd be fine with that.
He probably will be, bro. This is the best backup of all time. That's what we're going with.
I like that. I like that label.
Malagon's our guy now. And I'm happy with that. He's in a better age, better informed. Yeah. He's the guy to go with right now. Yeah. So I think ultimately, as long as Ochoa or Malagon, I'm happy. I don't want to see an Angel. We go to defense. Jorge Sanchez, Cesar Montes, Johan Vasquez, Israel Reyes, Jesus Orozco, Julian Araujo, Mateo Chavez. Yeah. It's basically the best call-ups that you could have had for that whole back line.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, Vasquez, Montes, they're a big reason why Mexico's been successful. That defensive identity, both playing in Europe. Gallardo obviously just won a title with Toluca. Right back position's interesting because it's wide open. It could have been Kevin Alvarez. He can't even get called up anymore. Jorge Sanchez has been a little inconsistent. Israel Reyes, I would say, has been the best, but he plays in a center back position for America right now, but he could still easily play right back. Curious to see who Aguirre goes with come Gold Cup time.
Yeah, and I kind of have that same question in the midfield because what we've seen in the past was he goes with those winger options, Roberto Alvarado, Chino Huerta, and then the two Jimenez's up top.
Yeah.
And then it's Edson Alvarez, who in the past was paired up alongside Luis Romo. But Luis Romo did not get the call-up this time. Instead, we got Eric Lira, Gilberto Mora, the Mexican Lamine Yamal, 16 years old, plays for Tijuana. Charlie Rodriguez is back. Orbelín Pineda, Luis Chavez, and then Marcel Ruiz finally making it into a final roster. Round of applause for my boy, Marcel Ruiz. I've advocated for him for a long time. I'm happy to see him here. The question is, who becomes that pairing midfielder alongside Edson Alvarez? Because Romo ultimately was a pretty defensive, more workhorse type midfielder. Do they go with an offensive play in Orbelín Pineda? Do they go with more security, more box to box work in Charlie Rodriguez, Luis Chavez for a little bit of that passing flair, shooting flair, or does Marcel Ruiz get the opportunity to work alongside Edson in the midfield?
I truly think Aguirre is going to err defensively here. Obviously, it's no surprise, which means I see either Charlie or Lira being the partner alongside Enzo Alvarez, especially if he's playing 2 wingers and 2 strikers. I think you would have to double down defensively in the center, which means I just don't really see Pineda or Marcel really playing unless goals are needed in the second half. So I really do think it's either going to be Charlie or Lira.
I think that's a good point. A good point. I think I agree with you there. I'm excited to see who he ends up selecting up in those positions. Up front, though, it's pretty exciting, bro. It's pretty exciting. We have Julian Quiñones getting the call up from Saudi Arabia as he's one of the leading goal scorers in that league.
Shout out.
Over there. Ángel Sepúlveda, who just lifted the CONCACAF Champions Cup with Cruz Azul. You have Alexis Vega, who just lifted the Liga MX trophy with Toluca.
Yeah.
Cesar Huerta, who finally made the move out of Liga MX and is now playing in Belgium with Anderlecht and has seemed to be doing all right there. Efrain Alvarez, the youngster, I think now future Chivas player, I believe. I think Chivas now has acquired him, joining the team. And then obviously the 2 Jimenezes, Santi Jimenez and the on-fire striker, Raul Jimenez, is up here up top. These are some options, bro. And not just options, but players that I do believe are currently in very good form. As I mentioned earlier, probably the best form going into a tournament for Mexico in a long time.
Dude, yeah, it's a great point. I am so surprised at the form of these Mexican wingers. For the last 3 years, it's been nothing but criticism towards the front line of Mexico. But now you have Alexis Vega in his prime. You could say the same thing about Alvarado. You can say the same thing about Huerta. It's just going to add to that physicality, that aggression on and off the ball for this Aguirre-led Mexican side. And then up top, the options, and I really like what Aguirre is doing, playing both Santi and Raul, because Santi can't do it alone. Santi has proven that he needs help, and Raul is the perfect partner up top. And just by the way, none of this defensive identity would work if Raul was not in the form that he is in. Yeah. He's ridiculous what he's doing right now for Mexico. Even in the loss against Switzerland, the goals largely came from Raul Jimenez. If he's not scoring them and he's been so clinical, he's creating. Not even off the pass, he's somehow getting deflections to go his way. He's so crafty now in build-up. Raul Jimenez is the X factor for Mexico. He's the most valuable player. He needs to be completely healthy for the next 365 days. He is the key to Mexico being as successful as they are in CONCACAF.
Lord, I pray that you watch over Raul Jimenez, man. I need him protected. I need him safe, because you're right. That's the biggest, most important factor for Mexico going to this tournament. Is will Raul Jimenez stay hot? Will he, bro? If the answer is yes, we're winning the goddamn thing.
I think
easily,
so.
Easily too, I think. If he isn't, though, then comes the second most important question for Mexico offensively. Will Santi Jimenez step up? Because the last time that he's done anything notable for Mexico at the international stage was at the last Gold Cup in 2023 when he scored that beautiful game winner against Panama to win it all. After that, with the Mexican jersey on, he hasn't been able to be a provider, hasn't been able to find his form in himself with his national team and play at a high level the way that we have seen him play at club. So every time that the international break comes around and that we become accustomed to this Jimenez pivot up top, I always ask the same question, bro. Can Santi Jimenez step up for us? And every time I enter with a lot of hope, bro.
Yeah.
A lot of hope.
That's
and once again, I feel a lot of hope again, man. Because he scored a goal against Switzerland yesterday, and who knows what that could do for his confidence. But a goal is a goal. I need Santi Jimenez to find his goddamn form and create an incredible double attacking duo, because Raul Jimenez is doing his part. Now do yours, bro.
Yeah, imagine if Santi figures it out.
Oh.
Dude, you'd have an insane double point attack.
Oh.
The best in CONCACAF, by a large margin, if it's figured out. But it's all up to Santi, man. It's all up to him. I think truly all of the other supporting cast of this Mexican side has fully stepped up. And it is so surprising that every other player has stepped up to the plate for Aguirre and for this team. I just don't know if I could say that about Santi. He's playing decent. I just always feel like he can do a little bit more. Yeah. And maybe that's just harsh, and maybe that's just that hope that I'm hoping for him to actually reach his full potential. Yeah. But it just hasn't been reached yet. We got to be honest. Santi has not reached his full potential with his Mexican national side. Not the way that we've seen it in the Eredivisie and even a little bit at Milan in the second half of this past season. I feel like Santi has more to give. He just has not figured it out. Now he's got the whole summer to try and figure it out a year before the World Cup.
What's interesting, though, is that in the past, I would say past 2 years, there's been a lot of opportunity for him to become that guy. It was prior to Raul Jimenez really getting hot. There's a transition happening up top. And I mean, the dude that was really challenging Santi for a spot was the Puma striker. What was that guy's name?
Oh, yeah.
He was active at the Copa America. I can't even remember his name, bro. But I think that kind of highlights the competition that Santi Jimenez had at his position back then. The situation now is interesting, bro, because if Santi Jimenez doesn't find his form in the group stage against overall weaker teams, do you give Ángel Sepúlveda a chance?
I would love to see that.
Do you give Julián Quiñones a chance?
Aguirre won't let that happen.
What do you mean?
Aguirre is so anti-Quiñones for some reason. He only uses him like in the 80th minute.
Those are two really solid backup options, bro, that I think could work well. Yeah. And I actually would be interested to see how they can work alongside Raul Jimenez. Maybe there's a better fit. Maybe. But that's my worry for Santi Jimenez is if he doesn't find his form, those players get an opportunity and take over. Ultimately, it's a good problem to have that we finally have this depth and players that are in good form, but we haven't seen a situation like this in recent memory. Also excited to see the backup winger options because I do think Roberto Alvarado and Huerta will probably start because that's who Aguirre went with in the Nations League finals. But the presence of Alexis Vega, I think, makes it interesting. He's on fire, MVP of La Liguilla, basically. Do you give him an opportunity? Do you even give him a start and maybe these group stage matches to see what he's got?
And at worst case, you always have an impact player ready to come off the bench. That's what I love about Mexico's situation right now is you have three very in-form wingers. You start two of them. You can shift them around during the tournament, whoever's most in form, and then you'll bring the third one on in the second half, 60th minute, have a huge impact. Imagine Vega coming on just completely ready in the 65th minute. He's going to do a lot of damage. Yeah. You could say the same thing about Alvarado or Huerta if they start on the bench. So it's a good problem for Aguirre right now up top.
Yeah, and we haven't really seen Vega at the international stage since the World Cup in Saudi Arabia. And I'm kind of disappointed. I think he's took this time off from the national team to kind of reset himself, and we saw it in an incredible Liga MX campaign. I'm excited to see this new version of Alexis Vega, a more mature version, a more deadly version. I would love to see him play a role for his national team, man. I really, really would. But when we look at the squad overall, with the players selected, with the coach, Javier Aguirre, and the situation that they now find themselves in, my question is, are they the favorites to win this thing?
For me, clear favorites. They have the best squad, the best 11. They have the best bench. They have the best coach right now in CONCACAF. They just won the Nations League and they proved that they are the best in CONCACAF. Use that momentum, immediately prove it again. I see Mexico as by far the best team here. There's a couple teams I think that will compete for it, but I do have Mexico as right now the best team in CONCACAF.
I agree. I completely agree, and I hate to really spoil the video, but I'm wearing a Mexico.
Yeah, come on, brother.
I got Mexico winning this thing. And it feels good to finally have that confidence and not feel like I'm being delusional. Because I do think we have the best roster. We're in the best shape right now. I think there's too many questions with the other top dogs in CONCACAF that I think finally Mexico find themselves in a more stable position with the opportunity to gain glory once again following the 2023 victory. It's a necessity, though, in my opinion. I think it's a necessity because for us, momentum is very important. Trajectory is very important. For the moment Javier Aguirre came into this team, it's been nothing but up, nothing but positive. I think the rewards from winning another Gold Cup, this time one that's very important because we won't have a lot of competitive matches after this tournament leading up to the World Cup. It's important to take advantage of this chance, get some silverware, continue gaining confidence, continue figuring out who are the best pieces for this team. Let's have ourselves a great 2026 FIFA World Cup, man. That's why I think it's important. It's a necessity. Let's take advantage now that the opportunity is here. Vamos, Mexico.
Dude, yeah. I mean, Nations League win and then add a Gold Cup a couple months later, a year before the World Cup. That's perfect because after lifting the trophy, if it does happen for Mexico, they'll just have a year to just rinse and repeat what they're already doing. Execute Aguirre's ideas. You won't have to change anything. That's what a coach needs to do. Not come up with ideas a year before. Just practice what is already implemented in the squad. So, yeah, you would prove so much if Mexico go all the way to the final and win it. They'd be the best team in CONCACAF a year out. And obviously, they'll be playing hosts as well. We cannot forget how big of an impact that's going to be for Mexico next year. So, yeah, winning, I think, would be... it'd be so important for Mexico.
That's why I believe that it's baby steps to that, because I think a lot of people already saw the Switzerland result, for example, and they're like, wow, Mexico still can't compete with a top European team or just a solid European team.
Switzerland's good.
And that's okay. That's fair criticism, but I want to remind people how low in the dirt we were a few years ago, man. Yeah. That's where I'm at. I'm crawling out of the fucking dirt right now, man. Bro. Trying to find myself again. So for me, this Gold Cup win matters a lot. In the past, it might not matter that much because this is something that we were used to, but we need to slowly gain our confidence back, slowly get back in the way of winning, because I do think that's very, very important. By the time the World Cup comes, we have the host advantage that I think can equate the difference between us and a top European team. That's what I'm hoping for here. That's the optimistic plan, because if you were to ask me if this team can compete with a top European team right now, I think the answer is still very, very clear. Before any of that, we have to look to regain the throne of CONCACAF. And you do it by winning multiple trophies in this region. This is the one that we need. Let's go out and get it.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go, baby.
Feeling good if you're a Mexico fan.
Oh, I'm feeling great, brother. I'm feeling great. And let's talk about the rest of this group, because as I mentioned, we have some full circle moments with Mexican Miguel Herrera coaching this Costa Rican team here as they top their World Cup qualifying group right now with Trinidad and Tobago in it. They're coming off of a victory against the Bahamas, 8-0.
R.I.P. Bahamas.
R.I.P. And they got some players on this team that are obviously standouts and veterans, with Keylor Navas returning to the squad after taking a year off. You gotta expect Miguel Herrera to be incredibly happy about one of the greatest talents that CONCACAF has ever seen rejoin his squad.
Yeah, it's a hell of a get. He announced his retirement last year, and I guess Herrera comes into the frame, probably makes a call to Navas, I'm assuming, because how else would he get him? Just saying, like, look, we need you. We need the best goalkeeper that CONCACAF has ever produced. You can still do it. He plays in Argentina with Newell's Old Boys, by the way.
Crazy.
That's kind of a fun fact.
Yeah.
And Navas accepted the call up, and I love that. That's a true leader right there. And it's only going to benefit this side. A side that's very young, couple of good veterans, namely in the defensive end with Navas, JP Vargas, Francisco Calvo. So I think it's going to really add to that defensive core that Costa Rica is going to need. And then the youth up top will hopefully take care of the rest. But I do have to say, dude, when I saw Herrera as coach of Costa Rica, I got triggered. Because what is the most Mexican human being doing coaching Costa Rica?
You don't like it, huh?
It just doesn't make any sense to me, because he's coached Club America. He's coached the Mexican national team. You don't get more loyal as a Mexican citizen than those two acts right there. Yeah. And then now he's just decided, you know what? I'm going to go coach my rivals.
Yeah.
And it rubs me the wrong way. But I love it for Herrera as a person, as a coach, and I love it for Costa Rica as a country, because I think this is the right guy to lead this new Costa Rican team that is trying to get rid of a lot of their old players and bring in a new generation, because one thing that Herrera is very good at, motivation. And I think he'll be able to motivate a lot of this young talent to really step up. And what's crazy is that they play Mexico in this group.
Bro, it's Katie to the Warriors after the Warriors defeated OKC Thunder. That's what this is, bro. Costa Rica damn near knocking Mexico out of the World Cup in 2014. Miguel Herrera was spearheading that squad, bro. He was there when Costa Rica got incredibly personal about that matchup. And I'll never forget it. Costa Ricans that day showed their hatred for Mexico on the pitch. And they took it to us as they defeated us 2-1, bro. It was an absolute demolishing, dominating 2-1 that I will never forget, because I was scared they were going to miss out on a freaking World Cup. It was this Costa Rican team. It was this nation that did that to us.
Yeah.
And Miguel Herrera loses to them. And then 11 years later,
now he's here.
He's here. He joins them.
He joins them.
And as you mentioned, for his career, it's the right move, just as it was for Kevin Durant. But it's going to be criticized, man. It makes sense. He's Mexican Kevin Durant, Miguel Herrera. I'm interested to see it, though, man, because I remember that Miguel Herrera was such a emotional guy from Mexico. I mean, the memes. He had the the Goku hair coming out of him in moments, bro. It was crazy. I would love to see that once again because, I mean, that on the international stage is something incredible to watch. It really is. And I know that he's going to give his heart and his soul to this Costa Rican team. And I think they're going to have some really memorable moments in this tournament as they look to do something special. You highlighted the players. One of my favorite Costa Ricans right now, Jalen Mitchell, who had a great Copa America, is back with this squad. As with Keylor Navas as well. And I think you really have to lean into your defensive attributes if you're Costa Rica because that back line looks pretty secure. It looks pretty good by CONCACAF standards. I just question what they can do beyond that.
Yeah.
I do think I see them getting out of this group though, but with a clear limitation. That one being of quarterfinals. So I think this Costa Rican team has quarterfinals written all over it, but still should make for really fun, classic Costa Rican performance at this tournament.
Yeah, and this is the opportunity for a lot of these young Costa Rican footballers to make a name for themselves in the national team jersey. They've been flirting with it, right? They had honestly, I would say a good Copa America because they weren't expected to do anything.
That tie against Brazil.
But they were able to compete, and that's what Costa Rica is so good at doing. They were honestly underestimated at the 2022 FIFA World Cup. They didn't do well, but they still performed up to the level that they were asked to. Now it's up to these young footballers of Costa Rica to try and do the same thing. A player I really want to highlight, Alonso Martinez, the striker for New York City. He's going off. He's been so prolific in front of goal in the MLS his last couple of seasons. This year, 8 goals, 16 appearances. He's scoring at a very high rate. He'll be very deadly for Costa Rica. Hopefully the rest of his teammates can, kind of match him. Otherwise, this team's going to be limited offensively.
And we're followed up with 2 interesting teams, Suriname and Dominican Republic. Of these 2 squads, who has a higher chance of surprising? Who has a higher chance of surprising?
Damn, that's tough. I would say if you look at the past results for the last 3 years, it's definitely Suriname. This is the best Surinamese football team since the 70s.
Oh my God.
Since the 70s, bro.
What are they doing in the 70s?
They almost made the World Cup. They almost made it. They got to the final group stage of qualification. Right?
Damn.
So that's something.
Yeah, golden generation.
And it's been barren since. But now they made a Gold Cup a couple years ago. They made it again here in 2025. They play in the Nations League A. We saw them in the Nations League quarterfinals back in November playing against Canada. And what you get with Suriname is really interesting. They're good footballers. Most of them play in Europe with the Dutch ancestry. So there's some good players. Riziano Hops plays in Italy with Venezia. The biggest name player, Geraldo Becker, right? Real Sociedad striker, used to play in the Bundesliga. Fortunately, he's injured.
That's what's going on.
Unfortunately,
I was wondering why he
injured.
wasn't called up, man.
Yeah. So that's a big miss.
Okay.
Because when you watch Suriname play, they're not good at chance creation. They have a good defense. They can keep a lot of games tight, but their offense it's not good. Their offense is not good. They have offensive players. Urano Kirk plays in Belgium, but as a unit, as a team, this team really struggles to create a lot of good, threatening chances. So I give them a chance to surprise only because of their defense, not because of their offense.
Can I offer you up some security, some veteran leadership, some experience in the midfield with Dion Malone? Can I offer you some Dion Malone?
You can try, man.
Yeah.
You can try.
Okay.
But
Hey, shout out my boy Dion Malone. He's doing the best that he can out there. Veteran with this team is going to be a go-to midfielder for this squad. 36 years old. 36 years old, but you're right. With the best Suriname team that we have ever seen. They're first in World Cup qualifying right now in their group with 3 wins out of 3 games, which is very impressive. This is a group with El Salvador and Jamaica in it, and they're topping it at the moment. It's looking really positive for Suriname. So I do think they have the most potential to surprise out of them or Dominican Republic, but it's going to be a little bit difficult because if you look at their matchup against Canada and the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Nations League a few months ago, it was clear that there's a limitation on this team.
Right.
They really, really struggle against the Canadians. And I just think it's very clear that if it comes to facing off against a really strong team, they probably won't defeat them. But it's those matchups, that Dominican Republic matchup, that might be the one where they show out and ball out and show their talent. Costa Rica, maybe they can prove to be a little bit of a feisty team there because Costa Rica isn't that electric. Suriname, a team to watch for sure, but a team that I do think has a limitation.
yeah, I think they'll be able to compete against Costa Rica, but I back Costa Rican football is just a little bit more. Just a little bit more.
If it was Jamaica, maybe? Maybe Jamaica.
Yeah. No. It'd be the same thing.
Let's talk about the last team. Dominican Republic is at the tournament for the first time ever. Their first Gold Cup appearance, man.
That's what I'm
Coached
talking about.
by Marcelo Nevelef. This is a team that has Junior Firpo on it from Leeds United. And then the one and only Mariano Diaz, who once played for Real Madrid for multiple seasons. I looked at his resume just to remind myself of who Mariano Diaz was.
Yeah.
Bro, he had 21 goals, 5 assists for Lyon in 2017.
Yeah.
After that, ghost.
Yeah, he went ghost. His career has been one of the most weird careers if you look at it, because he's never really played. He was like a bench player throughout his entire career at Madrid, and then he gets the chance to go away from Madrid. Kind of likes the light, but not really. And then he just has really never played.
Yeah. And so is he going to play for the team?
He got called up, and the media thought he was coming, but as of like 2 days ago, it seems like he's not coming anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, then. That's disappointing, because this team is really interesting. I look at their results, and I was totally surprised by how high scoring the results can be, whether it's defensively or offensively. They have games where they're scoring 3, 4, 5 goals, or where they concede 3, 4, 5 goals. It seems like a high risk, high reward type of product for Dominican Republic. And I just checked in recently on their match against Guatemala, which was a couple days ago, World Cup qualifying match. They were up on Guatemala 2-1, I believe, but then Guatemala at home took it to them, scored 3 back-to-back goals to get the victory.
Bangers too, by the way.
Bangers, bro, and I can't wait to talk about Guatemala. But for Dominican Republic, I do think it's going to be that type of matchup. A lot of goals, could be really entertaining and fun to watch. It just might not be in favor of the Dominicans.
Yeah, their style is really fun, right? They have a very good dribble penetrators. They play risky football, and they don't play with any fear. But it does go to their detriment, though, because the quality isn't that high. But I just want to focus on the positives here for the Dominican Republic. This is their first major tournament ever. This is the biggest stage that the Dominican Republic has ever been on. This is as good as it might get, bro. It's amazing. 2025. It has taken that long in a country where baseball's king.
Yeah.
This generation of football has said, you know what? Let's go to the top. Let's play against Mexico.
Yeah.
It's a hell of an opportunity. Luigi De Lucas plays in Cyprus. You have Heinz Morschel, plays for Vizela in Portugal. He's a pretty good midfielder. Torni Romero, Peter Federico, plays for Getafe. There's some decent talent on this side. Noah Dolenmeyer plays for El Paso Locomotive in the USL. Big shout out, bro. Yeah. So these footballers, they're doing the best that they can. It's fun football, but ultimately, I think Mexico, Costa Rica, that experience is really going to be the demise of this Dominican Republic side.
It's cool that these lower level CONCACAF teams, like the way I'm looking at all these rosters, most of them have players in Europe now, man.
It's dope.
Like you just mentioned a player that was at Getafe.
Yeah,
that would have been crazy even like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So the fact that the Dominican Republic has become one of those nations, I think is really cool. Congratulations on the appearance. I do think the fact that this is such a big stage will ultimately be their demise, man. I mean, that matchup against Mexico,
dude,
we're going to be at it.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
A lot of fun. Come say hi.
But it might go rough for the Dominicans, or if it doesn't, then we might get some crazy interviews after the game from Dominicans themselves, bro. Which, dude, win-win situation.
Also, it was like literally just this morning, Firpo's injured.
What?
Yeah.
God, man.
I know, bro. It doesn't help.
I'm trying to find things to say about this team, man.
I know.
God, that's harsh.
I know.
That's harsh.
It sucks, bro.
Final standings. Mexico first, Costa Rica second, Suriname third, Dominican Republic fourth.
Yes.
Perfect. Moving on to Group B, where we have Canada, Curacao, El Salvador, and the mighty Honduras. Let's start with Canada. Let's start with the Canadians, who just finished third in the Nations League, being coached by Jesse Marsh, who, to my surprise, will be missing the first 2 games of the Gold Cup due to red card suspension from that matchup against the USA, where he got very emotional. You remember? Where he just walked off. I don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
But he got very emotional. Jesse Marsh is out. Shouldn't be a problem because this team is very talented, bro. With players all over Europe, players that are in incredible form, and players with very promising futures like the one and only Jonathan David, man. Where is he going to go? This Canadian team, bro, I think does land in the contender category. It's just a matter of how do they play against the USAs, the Mexicos, the Panamas, the Panamas of this region. If they win those matches, bro, they could definitely be the champions of this tournament.
Yeah, looking at the squads of all the Gold Cup teams here in 2025, I think Canada have the second best squad. So just by that very nature, I need to see Canada in a final. I need to see them there. We saw them play against Mexico in the Nations League semis, and they played well. It was a very tight match ultimately, but Mexico did get the best of Canada. They got to reset, but there's a lot of promise with this side. Similar to Mexico, with Aguirre having such a big impact, it's all about Jesse Marsch, man.
Yeah.
Dude, Marsch has completely changed this team's trajectory because after crashing out of the World Cup in 2022, where there's a lot of hope for this Canadian team, there was a weird aftermath period where it didn't seem like Canada knew what to do with themselves. They had lost that aggressive wingback identity where they had that back five and Davies was damn near a winger for most of the time. It just didn't work. It left them too open to attacks and counterattacks, and we saw that get completely exploited at the World Cup. Jesse Marsch comes in right before the Copa America, and they were the best team in CONCACAF at that tournament.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And they continue that form. They just slapped Ukraine 4-2 a couple days ago, and they've just been on a really good rise this past 12 months specifically, and it's all because of the identity that Jesse Marsch has instilled into the squad. He's got these players believing again, and not only that, he has them running routes, bro. He has them completely identified with the ideas that he has and wants to execute on the pitch, and you completely see it with this side. This team has talent. They just needed a good coach. Jesse Marsch is that coach. They have the second best squad here. They have the second best coach here. I need to see them in the final, or they lose to Mexico in the semis, whatever the route is.
Right.
But if they need to beat any other team they play that's not Mexico.
And I do like Jesse Marsch, man. I like how he represents his Canadian national team, and I like his tactician mentality, because looking at what happened at the Nations League, ultimately it was disappointing that they weren't able to make it to that final and that they weren't super competitive in that match against Mexico. You would have wished for more if you're Canadian, in my opinion. But if there's a coach that you can trust to re-energize the squad, to bounce back from that, when there's other teams in this region with a lot of talent in Europe, but with questionable head coaches, might I say, like a Mauricio Pochettino, I feel like with Jesse Marsch, I have more trust that he's going to get the best out of these players with this tournament coming around, man. I really do. Even though you do have some notable absences.
There's some big ones.
To start, Alphonso Davies won't be here, as he has a torn ACL and he's still recovering. Live while we're shooting, I'm looking at it and I'm realizing Bombito's not here.
There's no Bombito. There's also no Alistair Johnston. So their entire backline's completely makeshift except for Cornelius. But the midfield's all there. Kone, Eustachio. The front line's all there. My boy Schaffelberg, Tejon Buchanan, Ali Ahmed, Jonathan David. And a player that I'm actually really excited to see who is going to be new to the side, Promise David.
What a name. What a name, man.
What a name and what a goal scorer. Fact check me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think he just won the Belgian title with Union Saint-Gilloise. Scored in his debut against Ukraine. It's looking very promising for Promise David. And you're gonna hear a lot of commentators say that through this entire tournament, bro. It's too easy.
It's too easy.
It's too easy.
It's a gimme.
But what I really like about it is Jonathan David has struggled to find a partner. Kyle Larin just hasn't been prolific during David's tenure as the Canadian striker. But it might be Promise David. It might be that. And a year out before the World Cup for Canada to also figure out their front two situation. What a gift.
Yeah.
So this is amazing for Jesse. This is amazing for the Canadian national team. It's a great opportunity for them to go off in this tournament.
I say this with the perspective of the 2026 FIFA World Cup right around the corner, happening in Canada, where Canada will have many home matches. I say this with that perspective. Canada needs this Gold Cup.
Yeah.
They need it. If they want to do anything notable at that tournament, if they want to do anything special, anything to be proud of, they need to win this trophy, man. Because unfortunately, for as high of highs that Canada has reached, when they beat Mexico on Canadian soil World Cup qualifiers for 2022, did the same thing to the USA, slapped them up in the process to an incredible World Cup qualifying campaign. There's no silverware to show for it, bro.
None.
Fell short in 2023 Gold Cup. Fell short. The Copa America, obviously, that's different. Fell short. Nations League, time and time again, while the USA dominated Mexico, they also dominated Canada, bro. And then this time around, Mexico gets the victory over Canada in a sign of which team is shifting towards a more positive future. Canada needs to get silverware. They need to be able to gain that confidence that, you know what, we are capable of being the best team in the region. And you do this a year out from the biggest tournament happening in your backyard. That's the confidence that you would love to give to your players if you're a head coach in Jesse Marsh. And as a player, the confidence and glory that you'd want to achieve if the opportunity is presented. For Canada, it's time, bro. It's time because I've been very supportive of this team for the majority of these past 4 years. Let's see it result in something good, man. Yeah. Let's see it result in a trophy.
I completely agree. And that's why I'm putting the onus on them. To go all the way to the final in this Gold Cup. And if they lose against Mexico, that's fine. But if it's against any other team, they have to win. And even if it's against Mexico, they got to give their absolute best effort.
Play a good game.
It's frustrating, man. Because every time I see Canada play, I'm like, okay, maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year they get even just a Nations League trophy. Damn. But it never happens. Mm-hmm. They've made one Gold Cup final. Just one.
Ever?
And that was back in the year 2000. Funny thing is they won it that year.
Oh, nice.
But outside of the year 2000, they've never been to a Gold Cup final ever.
Disappointing.
It's so disappointing when you look at this golden generation that they've had for the last 6 years. Mm-hmm. Has to change. They have to go to the final unless they play Mexico in the semis or something like that.
I completely agree. Canadians, let us know down below. What do you expect from your team? What do you want to see? Because it's a special squad, and I do think the roster is good enough to win a Gold Cup. They're an exciting team. If they reach their potential, it could be very, very fun. I say the same thing about the following 3 teams, though. The potential that they all possess, what we could see with all of them having very passionate fan bases, and the opportunity to qualify for the World Cup with Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. already qualified. These are 3 teams that are looking to get a shot at the World Cup. It's Honduras, El Salvador, Curacao. Who's the most dangerous team out of these 3? And also, low-key, is this a group of death?
I think so. I think this is the group where second place is actually wide open, because I think your heart would want to say Honduras is the most dangerous team. But actually, let's just start with Honduras. This team pisses me off.
All right.
This team pisses me off.
All right, my fault, man.
Because they're so bipolar. They cannot figure out any sort of consistency. And what's even more frustrating when it comes to Honduras, it's not because they lack talent. The talent is there. Luis Palma, baller. Fantastic winger, plays in Europe, had a great career in Scotland, plays now in Olympiacos in Greece. Fantastic footballer. You have veteran striker Choco Lozano to feed in the box. Big frame, very good in build-up play, is a decent finisher. But then you have good domestic talent too in the midfield. Alexander Lopez, Davy Flores. Good attacking players in Alvarez, Benguche. You still have Andy Najar. There's good talent in this side. It has led to absolutely nothing for the last 10 years. They can't make a semifinal. They can't even get close to the top teams in CONCACAF. And it just wavers. They'll play one really good game, and it doesn't matter who their opponent is. That second game, they'll just completely forget how to play. It's very frustrating for if you're a Honduras fan, because I like these players, but as a collective, it is not working. They have Reynaldo Rueda, the coach who got them to the World Cup in 2010. He's back. Still hasn't really figured it out. Maybe this is when they do it, but I'm going to have to see it. I don't have any hope for this Honduras side. Maybe you do in the comments. Let me know, but I need to see it. I'm not going to predict. I'm not going to hope. I need to see it live in real time before I back this Honduran side.
I do feel like that's a sentiment from all the Honduran fans that I've spoken to. There's a sense of frustration, man. This team used to be so high up in CONCACAF, constantly threatening Mexico and the USA, being like a third or fourth best team in the region for a long time. At least when I was growing up, I remember Honduras always being involved and being a tough matchup. But as of late, they've really only been involved in those controversial, dramatic games against Mexico to qualify to the Copa America or the Nations League semifinals, and those have been some interesting matches. But even then, in those games, I can see the potential from Honduras. I mean, Mexico struggles to beat them in Honduras. There's a team there that I think is very capable of doing something very notable at tournaments like these. But the consistency, you're right, it's questionable. Cannot offer up to you a first place position in World Cup qualifying right now. Can I offer that up to you? Because that's what they've given you so far.
If I remember, they're in the easiest group in World Cup qualifying.
The toughest team is Cuba.
There you go. So I can't trust that.
You can't accept that offer?
I can't trust that at all.
Okay. So then here's what I'll offer you up. The group of death at the Gold Cup. Let's see what happens.
Right. This is the opportunity. But the thing is, group of death,
results in death.
I'm going to say it right now. I don't have Honduras getting out of this group. You know who I do?
Go ahead.
Curacao.
Oh, whoa. That's a weird way to say El Salvador, bro. That's a weird way to say it.
I got Curacao getting out of this group.
Tell me why you got Curacao.
Let me throw a couple names at you, all right? Leandro Bacuna, ex-Premier League player, plays in the Netherlands right now, but he had a great career in the Prem. 20-year-old Livano Comenencia last year signed for Juventus. He plays with their youth side this year in the 3rd division. You watch him play as a really crafty midfielder, very young, high ceiling type of talent. Obviously, he's very raw still, but that's the type of exciting talent that I love to see at this Gold Cup. They just had a World Cup qualifying game. I believe it was against St. Lucia. They destroyed them. Whereas Honduras barely won 1-0 against their World Cup qualifying side against like Cayman Islands or something like that. Way more impressive from Curacao. They look very good. They have a coach, Dick Advocat, Dutch coach who actually coached the Netherlands back in 2017. He also coached in the Premier League beforehand. So I think there's a lot of good experience in the staff and some very exciting players. The football is good. It's flowing for Curacao. They've just never proven it at this stage. That's the only problem. They've never been able to really show themselves at a Gold Cup. They're going to have to do it for the first time, but I like the odds. I like the prospect that Curacao, the momentum that they've been building these last couple of years, I like it. So I'm backing Curacao to get out of this group.
And this is the first to everything, bro. Yeah, the first to everything. That time will eventually have to come for you. Might be here for Curacao, man. Might be here to greet Curacao with a great time at the Gold Cup. I like this description of the team. Dutch-style organization with Caribbean flair.
Ooh.
Sounds like something off a menu.
Yeah.
Bro.
Is that a cocktail?
Real enticing, bro. Real enticing when I look at this Curacao team. You're right. From what I've read and researched, it does sound like they're on a great trajectory. And for their own context, what they're going through right now, it's very good, man. It's very, very exciting. Curious to see the fan turnout because I've met a lot of people from Curacao specifically. It's a Caribbean team. It's a little bit smaller region to represent, but still, could this team, which was here last Gold Cup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, can they do something more notable than what they did last time? Because I remember them kind of being propped up in the same way because they were making an appearance at the Gold Cup, but falling short. The time could be now for this Curacao team. I cannot deny you that. I'm interested to see it. Do they have dark horse potential? Does that exist for them, or is that too much to ask for right now for a team this young, inexperienced?
I think it's too much to ask.
My fault.
I think if they're in a tougher group, it'd be very tough for them to get out. But this is if there's death, there's life. So that's how I see this for Curacao, bro. I truly think they can get out of this.
If there's death, there's life. That really reminds me of like a phoenix.
Yeah,
Phoenix, right? Rising from the ashes, from a complete resetting. Think about other words.
Rebirth.
A rebirth. That's what I'm looking at. Like, why isn't that word coming to me, man? But when I think about a team that really does represent the idea of a phoenix, a team that has been in the mud, that has been turned to ashes, and hopes to one day turn to this beautiful flocking bird, is El Salvador. Here's what's going on with El Salvador. Let me just tell you my piece from what I saw, because this is what's going on right now. It's a team coached by Hernan Gomez, who was hired back in February, pretty recently, who took Panama to the 2018 World Cup. He's like the James Bond of CONCACAF. You hire this guy to do a job for you, he does it. That's what El Salvador is expecting here.
Yeah.
They could get the deal of a century, or they could get completely ripped off. We're about to find out. He's seeking, as mentioned in an interview recently, he is seeking a Gold Cup final appearance for El Salvador. Is that delusion, or is that what you want to hear from your coach? I continue. Second place in the World Cup qualifying group, right behind Suriname, and they're set to play them tomorrow.
That's going to be
Tuesday.
That's going to be a good game.
Some good games happening on Tuesday, actually.
It's going to be a good game.
Yeah. El Salvador, Suriname, to kind of get an idea where they actually stand.
Right.
Right now, they're second place behind them, but I think it's very close. They got a 16-year-old who got the call up to the team, Brandon Ramirez. I think that's dope. I haven't heard the word exciting Salvadorian talent in a really long time.
True.
And it sounds like finally there's something there. Names like Harold Osorio, Julio Cibrian, Brian Tamacas, Santos Ortiz, Brian Hill, not the one from Girona. This is a different Brian Hill, playing over in Russia. They've lost 1 in their last 9 matches. Okay. Don't look up the teams. Don't look up the teams. I think this team could get second place, bro.
They can.
I think they can get second place.
And so can Curacao, and so can Honduras. That's the thing. I could see any of these 3 teams finishing in second. I truly can see it. Because you're right. El Salvador, they're bringing a very familiar squad. Landa Verde is a part of this team as well. And he's a fantastic box-to-box midfielder. Jairo Enriquez, too. He's been very good on the wing for El Salvador in the 2020s. There's good talent on the Salvadorian side. It's just, I think they peaked. I just think they peaked already. And
like that's why the Ash
the
thing,
Phoenix,
man.
yeah. I get it. I think the rise of Curacao will trump the rebirth of El Salvador.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
But I think they're very close.
Yeah.
So if you are an El Salvador fan, I'd actually be really excited about this group because you can see yourself getting out of here and finding yourself in a knockout stage appearance.
And because finally there's something to be excited about.
Yeah,
I've kept a close eye on El Salvador, man, because we have a lot of Salvadorians that watch the show that have told us about their passion for their national team. We made some earlier El Salvador videos at the beginning of our channel because they were actually kind of good back then. But then we've captured their demise completely throughout our podcast history. Mm-hmm. I've been keeping a close eye to see when's that time to bring them back up again. Could be now.
It could.
Or I could be embarrassing myself right now. We'll find out at the end of this tournament. $20 if El Salvador goes through, yes. I earned that, yes.
If El Salvador specifically, yes. Deal. I'm down, deal.
All right, take that. All right, we got some money on the line. Folks, that's Group B right there. Let us know, who do you have coming out of Group B in first, second, third, or fourth? It sounds like for us, it's Canada in first.
Yeah.
For me, it's El Salvador second. You, Curacao second. Are you putting El Salvador third or Honduras third?
I'm going to put Honduras third, but yeah, I don't want to.
Okay. I'm going Honduras third, Curacao fourth. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm going. Group C has Panama, Guadeloupe, Guatemala, and Jamaica. And let me actually start the conversation here. I mentioned Jamaica earlier, and you had an interesting reaction that has me a little bit confused. So let's assess, where do you stand on this Jamaican team? Because as of right now, they're coached by Steve McLaren. As they let go of Hallgrimsson. They said goodbye to that era. We're moving on. We've got Steve McLaren guiding us now as they are in second place in the World Cup qualifying group behind Guatemala specifically. And they look to make something of themselves after multiple disappointing Gold Cup appearances where they have shown potential. They've shown moments of greatness. They've shown great roster selections, great players individually, but haven't found a way to make it work all together at once. What's going on with this Jamaica team?
The talent's there. Right, Damari Gray's accepting the call. Leon Bailey is actually here, which is crazy. Didn't want to go to Copa America, but wants to go to I don't understand it, but he is here.
Yeah.
That's talent right there. You have 2 very good wingers, right? You have good midfielders in Palmer, for example. The defense is good. Lembikisa, Latribordier, Andre Blake between the sticks. It's good. There's very good talent with Jamaica. There's always good talent when it comes to a footballing team from Jamaica. But as you already pointed out, it hasn't amounted to anything. Not World Cup qualification, nothing when it comes to the Gold Cup. They've made a couple finals over the last 10 years, but they haven't been able to win them. And in Nations League, when they play USA, when they play Mexico, they never have enough. So kind of similar to my take on Honduras, the talent's there, but I need to see something different from this side. I need to see them make a deep run. I need to see them, when they play against Canada, USA, or Mexico, actually go head-to-head against those teams and win. But it just doesn't help when you're firing your coach every 2 years, when you can't get consistent call-ups between your best players, when a player like Shamar Nicholson, who I thought was one of the most loyal attackers for Jamaica, all of a sudden it isn't coming because he's not in form. It doesn't seem like he's committed. And that really shocked me because it's Shamar Nicholson. And him not getting the call, that just tells me that this is a disease amongst the Jamaican squad. So I can only imagine how frustrating it is if you are actually a Jamaican fan, because I'm a fan of the players and I'm getting frustrated.
That's true,
so imagine if you're a diehard Jamaican fan. There's just no consistency on this side. It's very frustrating. The positive is, as I started, the talent is here for Jamaica. They can compete. Hopefully they qualify for this World Cup that will be here in CONCACAF region. The fans can come, but it needs to start somewhere. It has to start here in the summer. There has to be chemistry build some synergy amongst each other. But my God, the track record just doesn't look good for Jamaica.
If Jamaica is able to do something at this tournament, it would be one of the most shocking things I've experienced watching football. I'd even put money on that as well if you'd like, because what gets me about this Jamaican team, beyond the, you could say, corruption in the federation, the inconsistencies that we're seeing with the team. Sounds like I'm tearing up. It's the offensive players. And specifically, it's the horrendous form that the offensive line is in at this moment. Let me run you through it right now, because I was shocked by these numbers. Damari Gray played 25 games for Al Ettifaq in Saudi Arabia this year. 1 assist total.
Damn.
1 assist. He's a forward. He's a winger.
Honestly, it does make sense when you see him play, though. It does make sense.
Leon Bailey, after an incredible year, 14 goals, 13 assists last year, follows it up with 2 and 4. 2 goals, 4 assists. Not the worst thing, but definitely a drop off from where he was at 12 months ago.
For sure.
Shamar Nicholson, who obviously isn't coming, 1 goal scored for Tijuana in 10 games. Not ideal. Ronaldo Cefa seems to be their go-to guy now, their hottest player, quotes on hot, with 12 goals this season in Turkey.
It's pretty good.
2nd division.
Damn it.
But it brings up the question of how the hell do they get goals at this tournament? And secondly, there's this weird narrative going around of a solution potentially with newly renewed Jamaican Mason Greenwood potentially joining the squad.
Yeah, the potential. The last I heard on that was McLaren is a fan of Greenwood. I mean, most football staffs are fans of Greenwood. He's an excellent player. But I think McLaren said that he'd only accept the allegiance swap if the whole federation of Jamaica agrees. He almost wants to put it up for a vote. Should they let Greenwood play for Jamaica?
Oh, okay, so it probably won't happen in time for the Gold Cup.
I don't think it'll happen in time, but if some sort of vote happens over the next couple months, it would be big for them come World Cup time. But obviously, considering all the circumstances, I think McLaren's doing the right thing by kind of leaving it up to a vote.
Yeah. The thing is, Greenwood had an insane year. So if there was a solution numbers-wise, he's the guy to go with. But there's a lot of stuff there that I think needs to be figured out with the federation. So that was an interesting narrative. But beyond that, my whole point is that offensively, I think it's just looking like a really bad mix at the moment, when in the past, when Jamaica has been at their best, it has been their offensive talent that has stood out. When you had a prime Mikel Antonio going crazy for you, carrying the team, now it's looking even more dire, more desperate. That worries me for what I'm going to see at this tournament.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I don't have high hopes for Jamaica. I'm just curious to see if they can put together a team that is truly competitive, because at their best, Jamaica can compete against Mexico, USA, Canada, Panama. They can. I've seen it before. But it doesn't happen on a consistent basis. And a year out from the World Cup, when they're trying to qualify for it, they need to build some sort of momentum, man. But again, it's just not looking good for Jamaica.
A team that has been able, though, to max out their talent and make the most out of the players, the coaches, the federation, and have everything in sync, so much so that people are calling this team as a golden generation type squad at the moment, is Panama.
Hell yeah.
Panama, a solidified top 4 team in CONCACAF these past 4 years as they've gone to Nations League finals, Gold Cup finals. Unfortunately, haven't been able to close those deals off, but have gone deep in tournaments and proven to be a very, very tough opponent to play against. Especially if you're a USA fan, you would know this the best, as they've gone on to defeat them multiple times now these past couple of years. Panama is here, coached by Thomas Christensen, and they're looking to hopefully do the same thing that we mentioned about Canada, overcome those knockout tournament demons and get themselves some silverware in the build-up to 2026. The chance is there, the talent is there, the momentum is there. I mean, everything's shaping up for what could be a really special Panama run.
I love this team, man. I really do. They're the best Central American side since Costa Rica 2014. They have one of the best coaches that CONCACAF has seen over the last 6-7 years in Thomas Christiansen. He's completely changed this team around. He's in his 5th year, and I think that's a big testament to how good he is and how much the Panamanian Federation believe in him and how much the players believe in him too, because this team is so unified. Every time I see Panama play, and this has been for the last 2.5 years, there is a clear idea on what they want to achieve on the pitch for those 90 minutes. It is beautiful to see. It's a well-run machine. And this is the golden generation of Panama. And that's crazy because we've seen players like Blas Perez, Luis Tejada, Armando Cooper in the past. Those were ballers for Panama. And I thought that was as good as it was going to get. But now we see this generation of players completely go above that level. And as you said at the beginning, they've established themselves as a top 4 side in CONCACAF. They sit at the same table as USA, Canada, and Mexico. No other team in CONCACAF can say that. They just made the Nations League final a couple months ago. They were in the Gold Cup final in 2023. Let's fucking go Panama, bro. I love this team.
It's time. It's time. I want to see it. I mean, the names are just ridiculous. Cecilio Waterman, Ismael Diaz, Guerrero, Blackman, Anibal Godoy. You can just go down the list. This team is loaded. You want to got some more there?
Martinez, we've got Cordova, we've got Carlos Harvey, who's done very well. There is no Edgar Bárcenas. He had a torn ACL with Juarez. And there's Coco Carrasquilla's not here.
That's tough.
It's tough. And that's a big miss because he's one of the most entertaining midfielders in all of CONCACAF, but he just has a bit of a knock, and they just want to rest him for the summer, and I'm cool with that. We'll see maybe Cesar Yanis get to start in midfield, but Michael Murillo's back.
That's a big one.
And that's a big one, so Panama got some absolute ballers in there.
I'm excited for the Murillo edition because he wasn't here for the Nations League final, semifinal, and final game. He's a big defensive player that plays at Marseille that I think could definitely help bolster this team in that back line. I have Panama going to the semis, no doubt. I think they top this group. And unfortunately, looking at the bracket, they would face off against Mexico in the semifinal.
Damn. That's tough. Yeah, I mean, well, we saw Panama in the final. They barely lost to Mexico. It took Mexican brilliance and a little bit of luck as well for them to lose. So that game will still be a banger in and of itself. I see Panama definitely going to the semifinals. They're a top side in CONCACAF, but winning it, I can only give them a dark horse label.
With no Carrasquilla, that's a championship level winning player. Yeah. You need that type of guy on your team. Without him, that's tough. That's tough to ask for. But semifinals is still very admirable, I think, with this team.
Oh yeah, it's amazing, and it's just going to add to that momentum. If they have a good Gold Cup, qualify for the World Cup after, I think they'll have the perfect amount of momentum going into 2026, and they'll be able to give such a good performance. And especially when you compare to their appearance in 2018, they'll be able to just knock that out of the park and do so much better and really represent Panamanian football.
Who do you have getting second place in this group?
I want to say Jamaica. I really do want to say Jamaica. But Guatemala are interesting. Guatemala are very interesting. And the only reason why I'm not choosing Guatemala is I need to see them play on Tuesday.
That's a big one.
They have a big game coming on Tuesday.
Who are they playing?
They play Jamaica. So we're literally going to see who's going to get second place. We're going to see it before the tournament.
A Gold Cup preview that's actually competitive because it's a World Cup qualifier.
World Cup qualifier.
As Guatemala right now sits at the top of their group, a group with Jamaica and Dominican Republic. Very admirable start so far with Luis Fernando Tena guiding this team forward. As I mentioned earlier, they just defeated Dominican Republic 4-2. They get a big result against Jamaica. I think it's clear that they're the second best team in this group.
It'd be so clear. I like Guatemala and what they've done over the last couple of years. They had a really fun 2023 Gold Cup. The fans really showed out. I didn't realize there were that many Guatemalans here in the States. It was beautiful to see. Dope atmospheres. They had that really fun game against Guadeloupe where it ended up being back and forth. Insane. They won 3-2. They had a great showing 2 years ago. My only question with Guatemala is, what is their true potential? I'm just not sure. They played in the Nations League B, in these last 2 years. So they're playing against very low-level competition. So they should be winning a lot of their games. I need to see them play against higher competition on a more consistent basis. We're going to see that at the Gold Cup. We're going to see that Tuesday against Jamaica.
Yeah, I was curious about their level, too, and assessing where they stand because they've been getting great results. They topped the group with Canada at the 2023 Gold Cup. That was impressive. But you look at the results, and the ones that stood out to me that were losses were a 3-0 loss to Costa Rica and a 3-0 loss to Panama. Mm-hmm. And so when I assess where they land, I actually do think it's at Jamaica's level. I think they're at Jamaica's level right now. I think
so.
I think the game that we're about to see will define a lot, but it's a question of which team can top the other and get second place in this group. I'm going to put my money on Guatemala because the trajectory that they're on, the energy that they're bringing is just a much more positive one than the confusing, drama-filled one that we've seen from Jamaica. I think Guatemala plays very exciting football. They have the potential for bangers as well, as we saw in that Dominican Republic matchup this weekend. God. Ridiculous finishes. They can just translate that over to a bigger stage, a bigger setting here in the U.S. with fans that will back them. Guatemala can get out of this group again, man.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a cool story that's developing because I just love seeing good atmospheres. I like seeing a new, fresh team enter the CONCACAF realm. And to make it to the quarterfinals back-to-back times in the Gold Cup, I think would be an incredible achievement for the Guatemala team and would be the stepping stool needed to potentially qualify to the World Cup, man. Guatemala could be one of those teams that represents CONCACAF outside of the obvious three hosts. So I'm Guatemalan. And when this group comes, I'm fully Guatemalan. I'm here to see what they can do. Exciting times, bro.
I do like that. They are an exciting team. They play a good brand of football. Their fullbacks, Morales and Herrera, great deliverers of the ball. They really stretch the pitch by doing a lot of switches, a lot of crosses. They're really fun. Santi's got a hat trick against the Dominican Republic. Ridiculous. He's such an active forward. There's some really fun players with Guatemala. And you know what? I'll just join you right here, right now. Guatemala second place.
Second place. Jamaica third. Guadeloupe fourth.
I guess, but Guadeloupe was fun 2 years ago. Guadeloupe was fun 2 years ago. I want to give a big shout out to this French overseas department territory because they've got some really interesting footballers. They almost all play overseas in Europe, right?
Crazy.
Lower leagues of France. I remember Matthias Faiton. He was a baller 2 years ago. He's here again. I expect Guadeloupe to have some fun games. I mean, they killed Cuba 2 years ago. Obviously, they don't have a team like that to play against in this group, but they were able to go head-to-head against Guatemala. Who's to say they can't do that again and maybe get like a third place finish or maybe get close to second place?
I believe they just got promoted to CONCACAF Nations League A.
Yes.
Which is big for them.
It's big.
That's momentum. They qualify to the Gold Cup because remember, to get into this tournament, you have to go through qualification, especially for some of these smaller teams. They qualify through there. Unfortunately, there's no World Cup aspirations as they're not registered. I don't know. There's a whole thing going on there.
Yeah.
They're just not.
They're a French territory, but the benefit is if you're born there, you are a French citizen.
Wow. So you support the French national team then?
Yeah, and you can actually play for the French national team.
Wow.
You just get to choose. If you're not good enough, you'll probably just choose Guadeloupe.
Bro, fucking France has so much depth. They could send their C team over here, and they could dominate CONCACAF, man.
Technically.
That's actually scary that exists, that could happen. That's terrifying,
No, you need
bro.
you need that Caribbean blood. That's like, I think, the rule for Guadeloupe specifically.
Okay, good. Regardless, they're a great trajectory as well, coached by Jocelyn Angioma. They defeated Nicaragua 2-0 on aggregate to qualify to this tournament. So I applaud them. They're riding a wave of momentum right now. I just need to see it on the pitch. I need to see it in a big setting, in a big scenario, a big stage. I don't think they're ready quite yet to compete against these tougher teams. We'll have to wait and see because you are right. Last time around, they did provide to be a really fun team to watch against Guatemala. Yeah. So Group C, I got Panama first, Guatemala second, Jamaica third, Guadeloupe fourth. You agree?
Yeah, I'm going the same thing.
Folks, let us know. How do you have Group C finishing off? And if you have any surprises coming from out of this group. And then the last group of the Gold Cup is Group D, consisting of your beautiful USA squad, Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, an Asian side, Saudi Arabia, led by Hervé Renard. There's only one place to start here, bro. Only one place to start.
Haiti.
And don't do that, man. Don't do that.
Okay, my bad. Trinidad.
Yeah.
My bad.
We're not doing that, all right? All right, you can't take a break.
You want to go Saudi?
Oh, you want to
gladly go Saudi.
You're trying to take a break like some of your heroes out there. You're trying to get some rest for personal reasons. That's what you're trying to do here. Let's start with the United States, coached by Mauricio Pochettino, and what's been a drama-filled past couple of weeks as news came out that Christian Pulisic, Yunus Musa, Folarin Balogun, Anthony Robinson, Serginho Dest are all sitting out of the competition due to injury or personal reasons. And then you also have Weston McKennie, Tim Williams, and Gio Reyna all unavailable as their clubs are slated to participate in the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Floor is yours.
Oh, my God. Simply put, the USA is in turmoil. And if you think otherwise, you are lying to yourself. Crash out of the Copa America a year ago when we were hosts and in the group stage. Pathetic performances. Truly, truly. It's not because we don't have good players. We really do. Timothy Weah, Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa. These are top players at their clubs at the European level, the highest European level. Anthony Robinson is one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League. Add that to the squad, bro. There's so much talent in this side, and it amounted to literally nothing in the Copa America when we were hosts. It was a perfect dress rehearsal to build up to the World Cup that we're going to be hosting next year. And it was a drastic failure for this USA side. Greg Berhalter then takes the sack. Pochettino comes in. And nothing's changed. Literally nothing's changed.
Oh, nothing.
The motivation, if anything, looks like it got worse in October, November. Come March timeframe for the Nations League semifinals and finals, we lose in the semifinals. We didn't even make the final. It's not good. It's really, really bad. This is the worst I've seen the U.S. since 2017, which, a reminder, we failed to qualify for the World Cup that year. It was really bad. This is the type of low that we're dealing with when it comes to this USA side. This Gold Cup puts me in a tricky situation as a fan of the team because this isn't even that team.
Yeah.
This isn't even that team that just failed.
Squad.
It's a completely different squad.
Yeah.
You just listed off 8 starters.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Yeah.
The only starters that are here, Matt Turner in goal, right? Chris Richards, Tim Ream, center backs, and Tyler Adams. That's it.
That's crazy.
That's it.
Wow.
The rest of the team are European fringe players, that's good talent, or good MLS talent, right? I'm talking about Jack McGlynn, Quinn Sullivan, for example, Sebastian Berhalter, right? These are great players at the MLS level, and they deserve to get the call of Diego Luna as well. Great aggression on and off the ball, but this is just not the team that has failed over this last 12 to 18 months. And as a fan of the team, I'm just left confused. Because how do I even really support this team at the Gold Cup? Right? I'll support the jersey, sure. But this isn't going to be the team that goes to the World Cup. It's not going to be.
Problem, man.
It's not going to be. So as a fan, I get nothing from this. Here's the thing. 2021, 2023, the USA, we sent C teams to the Gold Cup. We have a history of doing this. This is actually the best squad we've sent since 2019, by the way. So that's a positive. But in 2021, we won the damn thing. And in 2023, we were a penalty shootout away from going to the finals. So this team's going to make a deep run. But it's not going to mean anything to me. It's just not. It's not going to show me that we could build chemistry, because it'd be different if this was the team that had been failing and they go to the final and win it. That'd be different, because it'd be the collective showing that, okay, we can win. We can beat Mexico if it were to happen, right? We can beat Canada. We are good. We can, regain some of that mojo. But that's not here. It's not, the potential for that to happen. It's not here because the players aren't here to make it happen. So the only thing we can get as a fan from this tournament is just, all right, who's going to be the impact players coming off the bench next year? That's it. And that is a good thing, because, maybe Quinn Sullivan or Jack McGlynn scored a banger against Turkey the other day. Maybe those will be the standouts, and we're like, all right, I can trust these guys to come off the bench in a high-stakes World Cup game. But they're not going to start. That's the weird part about this, is that Christian Pulisic, he is the best player in his position by a large margin. He has no competition in his position. It's so clear. But you can say that about Anthony Robinson. He is the best left back, American left back in the world. There's no competition for him.
Easy.
You can say the same thing about Weston McKennie. You can say the same thing about Yunus Musa. They have no competition in their positions. This tournament will be interesting because we get to see Johnny Cardoso, we get to see Malik Tillman finally start, Luca de la Torre as well, start in the midfield and maybe do something. But let's be real. For them to start over Musa, McKennie, Pulisic, Robinson, Weah, it's probably just not going to happen. So this tournament is just going to be very weird for the USA because we're in such turmoil, but we're not even sending the guys responsible to try and fix it.
That's what's kind of baffling to me. Is like, I think of it like you see your boy in a toxic relationship. He says he's going to leave. Everything's going to be okay. I'm leaving this toxic relationship. And the next day he shows up with flowers. That's what this feels like, bro.
Right. Like,
you're you're leading me on. Like, what am I supposed to believe here? Like, after what I saw happen for the past year now, ever since I would say the signifying moment was obviously that Copa America performance, then the USA loses to Mexico in that friendly, and then we see what happens at the Nations League. After all that occurred in the last year, to see them respond in this way, it is pathetic, bro. It's so weak of them, in my opinion, because it doesn't address any of the issues that need to be addressed as soon as possible. It shows no urgency, and it's just really disappointing. You're right. I can feel your disappointment as a fan, how you were looking forward to seeing the team, even if it's the same guys who have shown, questionable levels of motivation with the team. You want to see them back at it again, trying to resolve those issues, trying to regain the confidence of the U.S. fans that are so passionate, that care so much for their team, and that want to see a good performance at the World Cup. But I think the fact that, 5 guys are sitting out for personal reasons, that one really, really gets me, because you guys know me personally. I'm big on regional competition, especially with CONCACAF and what it means to be at the top of CONCACAF. I've always highlighted that and how important that is. But then also with the fact that this arguably is one of the biggest Gold Cups in recent memory, because we're not going to have a lot of competition outside of this in the build to the World Cup. So in that sense, it's a massive tournament to gain momentum, to feel the team out in a way that is more than just a friendly matchup. So the fact that it's Christian Pulisic that I think kind of spearheaded this whole sitting out of the competition stuff disappoints me, man, because I wanted to see a response. And then Yunus Musa, Balogun, and Anthony Robinson's another big one, bro. Him and Pulisic had the biggest years of American players this past season, and to see them not perform is going to suck, because I actually was looking forward to that. And so, I'm also disappointed with you, because I want to see this Mexico team who just made their best call-ups. I want to see that team face off against the best version of the USA, whether it's just on paper. Even if on the pitch they're not playing that well, on paper, I want to see the best team available, play against the best team available. We're not going to get that. And that's very disappointing to me, and I don't know who to blame it on. I don't know if it's Pochettino and maybe not instilling that leadership, that respect that he doesn't seem to be getting. If it's at the player level, I'm seeing Pulisic be criticized a lot. I wonder if he really was that responsible for all that is happening within the players. I don't know who to blame, bro. But I just know that this situation is really, really shitty. And it's just disappointing because we're not going to see the strongest USA squad at this tournament. And I think it will result in probably a semifinal appearance, maybe a final appearance, but I don't have them winning it.
Yeah, it just puts me in such a weird position because, Pulisic's my guy. He's my guy, and I'm not going to criticize him, actually. He's living the dream when it comes to American footballers, bro. He plays at the highest level. He's won a Champions League. The Italians are saying that he's one of the best players at AC Milan. It's objective at this point. Christian Pulisic is an elite footballer. I'm not going to criticize him for that. I'm not going to criticize him for him wanting to rest.
But the role he plays, bro, like what he means to the USA, you mentioned it, GOAT USA player of all time.
And that still stands.
The GOAT USA player has to have a level of leadership that other players follow. I mean, imagine like Rafa Marquez did this during, Mexico turmoil period, or a notable player did this for the national team. That would confuse me a lot when it comes to, not blaming that person, bro.
I can't blame the person because we don't know exactly what's going on in his mind. What I do and can blame is just the communication between the U.S. Soccer Federation and the USA national team, its staff, and its players. Because as I said before, The USA has a history of sending C teams to this tournament. That's the precedence we've set. So if you're Pulisic, you can play into that precedence. Do you want to see that? Of course not. I don't want to see it. But you can play into it. And I think it's the federation's fault for allowing that in the first place. There has to be, you even said it, maybe Pochettino has to lay down an iron fist and be like, if you're not coming, you're not going to play at the World Cup.
That would have been nice.
You got to lay down laws if you're serious about it. But again, we don't know the conversation that happened between Pochettino and Pulisic and Pochettino and Anthony Robinson. So I won't criticize the player. They're top talents. But of course, I'm disappointed, especially when I see players like Ronaldo play for Portugal in a goddamn final, giving his all every single time for the last 20 years. I'm like, damn, wish our players had that much passion. But that's the problem when it comes to specifically the USA and CONCACAF. It's a problem specifically with that relationship, the USA and CONCACAF.
But if it's such a problem, then don't you think a player could take it upon himself to fix it?
Absolutely. But I think this could get into a more general topic, but this comes down to culture, right? If you're born in Mexico, I think you have a bit more of an urge to really show up for your team.
Right? Yeah, international pride.
And it's almost ingrained into you when you're a kid. In the States, even if you're a top footballer, you're not going to get that same culture effect. You're not going to. So that's why, yes, it is up to the person to try and change it, but I'm also not going to blame that person or player if they choose not to, because that's what they were born into.
Well, I'm placing the partial blame, not full blame. I'm placing partial blame because if we're touting him to be what we are saying he is, which is the best American player on a technical level.
Yeah.
Would have loved. Okay, maybe I agree with this disappointment part. Then I'm disappointed that he doesn't have that Ronaldo mentality when it comes to playing for your national team, despite the form that the international team is in and the obstacles you might face with the federation. I'm disappointed. I would have loved to see a guy that's willing to really, make his stamp on the national team. Seems like he doesn't want to be that. He's been criticized for kind of like his lack of killer mentality, I guess, like that at times. Maybe that's showing itself once again, but it does suck that a lot of people followed it as well. And Balogun, Robinson, Dest, and then the Club World Cup absences are... That's understandable, but still, it just sucks that ultimately this USA team isn't at their strongest, and it's going to make for a really interesting Gold Cup appearance.
Yeah, it's really interesting because that kind of brings up the question of like legacy. I think Pulisic is the most technical American footballer that has ever existed, but I think it's easy to argue that Deuce Dempsey and Landon Donovan have a bigger legacy, right? And this was an opportunity for Pulisic to try and build that legacy by being the USA's captain through and through, but as we've seen with Carlos Vela, for example, sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Oh, yeah, with Vela. But hey, you go off at the World Cup, everybody forgets about this.
Exactly.
It's a lot of pressure you're putting, but it's possible.
It is possible.
It's possible. And that's the only optimistic angle I can have.
Exactly. And it's why I don't want to fully criticize him, because he's still my guy. I'm still going to watch him play in Italy next year and enjoy every single touch that he takes. I still think of him as the most talented American footballer. And not only that, I still see him as my captain for this USA side at the World Cup.
That makes sense. No, you have to. You have to.
And I'm going to be right there with him, kicking every single ball when we play, because it's going to be amazing. We need him. So if he's getting his rest, I love it. Truly, truly. I'm disappointed, but I fully support his decision to rest. So I know it's weird. It puts me in such a weird position because I would love to just be all in, but I get it. There's nuances to these types of things.
The interesting part is, man, that IT matchup gets real close now. That USA IT matchup is real close now.
No, USA dominates
versus what it was in the past, bro.
They dominate. That's the weird thing. USA, even with their C teams, dominate Gold Cup.
We got IT, coached by Sebastián Mignet. Second in their World Cup qualifying group behind Curacao, but with 3 wins out of 3 games so far. Yeah. It's just goal differential. This IT team, unbeaten in 10 games. Toughest opponent, can you guess the ranking of their toughest opponent? The FIFA ranking, can you guess the general area that they would land? The toughest opponent they face in this unbeaten 10-game run.
Toughest, I'd say 156.
157, Puerto Rico.
Damn.
157. You saw my notes.
I didn't.
You saw my notes.
I really
saw my
didn't.
notes,
No,
bro.
I
You saw my
didn't, bro.
notes. You be looking at my notes.
Nah, bro.
Looking at my notes.
That's disrespectful, bro. Come on.
Another stellar June 10th matchup awaits us with Haiti facing off against Curacao finally in this World Cup qualifying group to give us an indication where this Haiti team actually lands.
That's going to be a big game.
In my notes, I wrote this down to find out because I could not really define who it was. Who is Haiti's best player?
Well, the last 10 years, it has been Dukins Nasson, although he's getting a little bit older, but dude, in his prime, bro.
Damn.
Dirty player, man. And he's still got some talent. He's still got some techers, bro.
Good.
I'll go so far as to say that 80 is my Caribbean team, bro. I love this team. I really do. They have such a fun way of playing football. Danley Jean-Jacques going off for Philly this year as well. They still have veteran players like Pierrot, Ricardo Ade, who plays for LDU Quito back down in Ecuador. So this team has some really good footballers. The rest of the squad, has a lot of work to do to try and reach up to those type of talents. But Haiti has a fun brand of football. I love it. It's pure Caribbean style, very risky, very offensive. Haiti's a fun team, bro.
They won the Gold Cup in 1973.
There we go.
Can you believe that? A Gold Cup that was hosted in Haiti.
Damn, that's
Imagine that, man. Imagine that. They were rotating countries back then. That was crazy.
Yeah, bro.
Now it's just been straight USA hosting it, but that's the last time that they reached glory. Could this be the time that we see Haiti do something notable in the modern era of football? Because it's been nothing but, group stage exits, maybe a quarterfinal, maybe a semifinal appearance. I think like in 2019 they had a semifinal appearance. Could this be the year that they make it out of the group and do something special?
They've been so up and down, I'd say, over the last 7-8 years. If anything, their consistency peaked right between 2015 and 2017 when they qualified for the 2016 Copa America. And they've just been really up and down since then. And they're still in that up and down wave. They can compete for sure. But against, the USA, against especially Mexico, Canada, there's just absolutely no chance.
Yeah, I think a lot about Haiti's destiny will be defined by the presence of Saudi Arabia in this group. And whether Saudi Arabia can take over second, maybe even first place position in this group, as they are coached by Hervé Renard. And you heard that right. Saudi Arabia is here. Saudi Arabia is this year's Qatar, as it was in the last Gold Cup. Saudi Arabia, a team from Asia who is currently looking like they're going to progress to the 4th round playoff in the AFC region. They have been up and down, bro. Up and down for the past couple of years, as they've honestly lost a lot of momentum from what they had in the build-up to 2022, 2018 as well. They've lost a lot of momentum since probably the last time that you saw Saudi Arabia play, when they defeated Argentina in their first game at the World Cup in 2022. This team has changed a lot. There's new names now suiting up for this squad, but they're here at the Gold Cup to gain more experience, more preparation for the tournament. And honestly, to answer this question for me, who benefits the most from Saudi Arabia being at this tournament? CONCACAF or Saudi Arabia?
I would definitely say Saudi Arabia, because they're going through such a tough time in AFC World Cup qualification. They're basically getting a sneak peek at what to expect next year if they can qualify.
Yeah.
So this is good for them. They'll be able to play against more level competition, and that's just good. Saudi Arabia need games. Renard's come back into the fray, by the way, because it was Roberto Mancini who was leading Saudi Arabia for these last couple of years. Renard comes back in to play savior for this side. They're not doing well, but Renard's actually, he's made changes and it's worked. So Saudi Arabia is now back on the come up. It's a slow rise, though, for the Saudi side. That game against Argentina in 2022, that was their peak. And they've been on a decline ever since then. Renard's back. He's trying to change it. So I think this helps out Saudi Arabia because they just need games, bro. They need to figure out who they really are and to see if they can even qualify for the World Cup in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think like Trinidad and Tobago needed to play Saudi Arabia. They don't need this matchup as much as I think Saudi Arabia does. There's something about that American air, man. Landing in Miami,
there you go.
Playing in LA, getting that fresh air and getting used to where you're gonna be at if you potentially qualify for the World Cup in the AFC region. But that's Saudi Arabia right there, a team that can pose a threat for that second place positioning. But I do find kind of tough to predict because I mean, they're an Asian team. Playing in America, they could completely crumble and struggle to find their form and their chemistry here. And it's a team that has a lot of questions already attached to them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know what the ceiling for the Saudi Arabian team is, given that even at their best in AFC qualifying, I haven't seen a team that looks that dangerous, especially against what could end up being pretty good quality in CONCACAF.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia will be interesting. Offensively, they struggle to score goals right now. And that'll actually be very good news for Haiti and Trinidad. Mm-hmm. If they can keep the game tight, then they'll actually have a chance to beat Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia do have experienced footballers, though, and that's what's going to keep them in most games. Even against the USA, I see that being tight. Salam Al-Dosari is still here, the best Saudi Arabian footballer of all time. Mohamed Kano still manning the midfield. So there's some familiar faces in the Saudi team for sure. There's good football to be had. But yeah, offensively, it's just not clicking for Saudi whatsoever. So I see, honestly, all their games being pretty tight.
And we'll finalize our predictions because right now I feel like it's up in the air. But let's define Trinidad and Tobago's journey now.
Yeah.
Because Trinidad and Tobago is led by Dwight Yorke.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Premier League legend, one of the top scorers that the league has ever seen, an incredible offensive talent. He's guiding this team with what seems to be a youth-first approach, something that has actually found a way to benefit Trinidad and Tobago as of recently, as they dominated Cuba 6-1 to qualify to the Gold Cup. They got names like Isaiah Lee, Tyrese Spicer, Dante Seeley, with notable results being 4-0 loss to Ghana, 3-2 loss to Jamaica. 3-1 loss to Saudi Arabia, surprisingly. 4-0 loss to Honduras. 2-0 loss to Canada.
Yeah.
There's been some lows for this team.
Yeah.
There has.
I think that's their level.
But there's a lot of unknown to this team. There is. And I'm curious to find out what can they do at this tournament as they're led by a legend with a nice mix of really young players, inexperienced players, and a couple veterans sprinkled around to help these guys out.
Yeah, Trinidad's really interesting because I'd say for the last 7 years, they've just kind of been around. You see them casually, or you see them randomly play against the USA, and they compete, but they never win. They can never compete. You just listed off all of their losses, and it makes sense when you watch Trinidad play. But I will say, they've added some really exciting additions as of late. And you actually listed them, Tyrese Spicer and Dante Seeley. Very direct dribble penetrators. That's the type of wing play that Trinidad have not had over the last 7 years. That comes into the offensive line for Trinidad. And then you still have really good midfield ballers in Levi Garcia and Kevin Molino. So I think what Trinidad have lacked has been offensive attackers, but now they have that. It has to build to something because they're very new to the squad, but it's exciting. Because I think this is a new phase for Trinidad. I'm excited to see what they can do, although I think there's a clear ceiling on what they can achieve.
End it on a positive note there. Does that mean you have them not finishing in last?
Yeah.
Whoa. I almost heard a yes. I almost heard a yes, chat.
I need to see Haiti play on Tuesday.
Everything gets decided on Tuesday.
Everything gets decided on Tuesday. But I think there's a good chance that Trinidad actually fight for second. I don't think they will get second, though.
I think they're a last place team, man.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. But they could beat Haiti. It won't be easy, but they could beat Haiti.
Okay. So, how about this? I got 5 on Haiti beating Trinidad and Tobago in that Gold Cup matchup.
Okay. What about a draw? What happens there?
You know what? I'm very pro Haiti here, so I'm gonna give you $5 if we draw.
Okay, yeah. So I'll take that bet.
Yeah,
I'll take that bet.
Okay. Haiti first place finish coming up here. No, I'm tripping. Here's how I got this group looking. First place USA. I have Saudi Arabia versus Haiti being the matchup to decide second place. You know what? Let's go Haiti. I'm going Haiti getting second place, Saudi Arabia third, Trinidad and Tobago fourth.
I think Saudi's defense and their overall conservatism and Renard returning will be enough for them to secure second place. I have a USA first, Saudi second, Trinidad third, Haiti fourth, but that could switch.
Folks, let us know your predictions. I'm down to make any bets. Just comment down below. Let's put some money on it. Let us know who's getting first place in this group. Your thoughts on the USA and everything going on with the team. And then finally, let's solidify. Who do we have winning this tournament? Y'all already know. I got Mexico winning this thing.
Yeah, I got Mexico.
Mexico.
As clear favorites.
Let's do it. Mexico to win another Gold Cup. Fingers crossed. It's going to be a fun time. And as mentioned earlier, we are going to be at many of these games. So look out for us. Look out for my curly hair, for Soltero's tattoos. And come talk to us. Come say hi. Let's catch a vibe. Let's have a good Gold Cup. Till next time, guys. Peace.